Okay, so next we're going to bring up Paul Martin, and he is going to talk about insurance, a wonderful subject which we've already touched on. And so I'm just going to hand this over to him and let him run with it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Okay, so who's talking to you up here? My name is Paul Martin. I have been in the insurance business my whole career. Third generation Aggie. Done a little bit of everything. Was a claims adjuster, insurance underwriter, insurance agent. One of the best titles I ever had in my career, though, it actually said it on my card, special agent. That's a cool title to have. But anyway, I'm here today to talk to y'all about why commercial insurance is so important to what y'all are doing. Now, there's 3 reasons to have insurance. All insurance fits one of these 3. I can lose my stuff, people can sue me, or I can get sick and die. That's it. Now, the big one is people can sue me. Yes, they can. Anybody can sue anybody for anything. It can be the most outrageous, stupid accusation. No truth at all. They can still sue you. And as I tell my friends that are typically younger than me, I'll say, number 1, stop buying your insurance like you're in college. And number 2, you don't have to be a millionaire to be sued like one. Okay? Now, the other thing I wanted to mention to you is we typically in our lives, we learn about personal insurance, homeowners insurance, auto, that kind of thing. Farm and ranch insurance, per se, evolved from like homeowners insurance. Same kind of path. And then they realized these farmers and ranchers have more stuff. So, okay, we can insure outbuildings and barns, and we can insure fences, we can insure animals, not very much, but you can. And that's all fine and good. It's that liability piece that keeps bothering me. Because when I say people can sue you for anything, they really can. And if you buy a farm and ranch policy, which many of you may have, and that's fine, it excludes business except farming and ranching. Now, if you're in a business that's not farming or ranching, that's not covered by a farm and ranch policy. Okay? So that means we need to move over into the commercial world. And if you have a good insurance agent, preferably an independent insurance agent, and I'm not saying that to be mean. I love State Farm. They're great people. But they're not commercial insurance experts. So let's talk about commercial insurance. What can commercial insurance do that farm and ranch policies don't? Well, the first piece here, we're talking about the liability. I bet you didn't know this. If you have a commercial general liability policy, let's say that you have a hot dog stand. And during the year, you want to open up a fireworks stand. You have coverage for it automatically. Now, they're going to charge you more at the end of the year because you opened up a fireworks stand, for crying out loud. But you can that can be covered. And they'll just pick it up at the end of the year. You can be a home builder and start a restaurant. That's fine too. It's all about who they're insuring, the entity, the name, the LLC, the S Corp, whatever it is. But the liability piece is pretty doggone important. In fact, y'all were talking about helicopters a minute ago. A commercial general liability policy even can provide indemnification if you're hiring out a helicopter. A lot of people don't know that. Anyway, if you own helicopters or planes, you're going to have aviation insurance with giant limits. I once asked a friend of mine, I said, when Kobe Bryant died, y'all remember that? When Kobe's helicopter crashed? I said, how much insurance do you think that guy had on the helicopter? They said 50 million. When you get in aviation, those limits get like that. I said, what's a common limit of liability on a Southwest jet? I said, probably 500 million. Those are giant numbers. And aviation is expensive. It's really expensive. Anyway, I could tell a story on that some other time, but I won't. But let's talk about it. You got liability insurance, property insurance. Property insurance is probably it's the most flexible of the things that you're going to need to insure. Because you can do almost anything to protect your stuff, your buildings and all your things. How many of y'all have ever heard of a category of commercial insurance called inland marine? Anybody ever heard of this? A couple of you? Inland marine, I love inland marine because number one, there's no rules. As an agent, had a client call me up one day and say, we bought this barge and we're going to mount crew quarters off of an old platform on it. We're going to take it out to an island off the coast of Louisiana. We're going to sink it. I went, what are you talking about? So he sent me a picture of it via fax machine a zillion years ago. And so I sent that to the insurance company, the inland marine underwriter that was trying to help me. And I asked him, I said, can you do it? He goes, yeah, I can do it. I said, what contract are you going to use? He goes, I don't know. We'll figure that out. And I said, well, what are you going to charge? He goes, what do you think they'll pay? I mean, that's inland marine. They can do whatever they want and find a way to do it. You want to insure your fences? Yeah. You want to insure just your gate? Yeah. You can do anything. All your equipment. Now, your insurance agent is the one that's going to be communicating with those people. The most important thing you can do is you change this mindset from my homeowners, my farm and ranch owners, into I'm going to insure this stuff commercially. You say, well, can I insure my house? Well, you don't have to. You can put a homeowners on your house, but everything else, you can write a commercial policy on a house. But the homeowners policy goes beyond commercial insurance in ways that are really kind of, I don't have time to explain today, but it's because you have your family there. And homeowners insurance, personal insurance, auto insurance is all structured assuming that you're part of a family. Most people don't know that. And so the coverage can twist and turn based on whether or not you're a family member or a spouse. And commercial insurance doesn't do that. So there's value to personal insurance, but commercial insurance gives you far more flexibility, and particularly if you get into some of these weird categories. I don't know if some of you are. Environmental liability. Any of y'all have diesel or gasoline tanks on your property? That's a whole different category of insurance. Anybody can sue anybody for anything. Some of you might have corporate structures, or you have a family farm corporation where maybe your kiddos are stockholders in the corporation. Anybody ever heard of directors and officers liability insurance? Some of the nastiest corporate fights have been among family. And that's when I'm suing my big brother. And those policies are designed to respond to those kinds of lawsuits and liabilities. There's more and more. I could go on and on. There's probably about 12 different broad categories of commercial insurance. If I want to leave you with a particular thing, it's this. Find a competent insurance agent that deals with commercial risks all the time and tell them everything. Don't hide stuff. I have one of my close friends in Austin. He's a really good insurance agent. And one day he told me that he went out to see one of his clients. And he does these mid-year reviews. So he'd make an appointment, go out, sit down with the owner, talk about all the things they're doing, things are new, stuff they stopped doing, whatever. And he finished his review and he says, well, thanks for seeing me. And he says, about to walk out the door. And his customer said, oh, Curtis, I forgot to tell you, I bought a helicopter. He said, dude, you can't just buy a helicopter and not call me. It didn't cross his mind. Oh, that's a problem. Yeah, that's a big problem. So tell them everything. Don't play games with your agent. Tell them. Treat them like you would your accountant or your attorney. They know how to do this stuff. If they need to work with your accountant or attorney, they know how to do that too. But I guess my point is, get an agent that's competent, knows what they're doing, and begin to think like a business with your farm or ranch. Now, somebody might have a question, I don't know. Anybody? Insurance question? I'm your answer man. Yes, sir.
I have an insurance question that's related that I'm in debate with my insurance agent.
Okay.
But it's a safari vehicle. It looks just like what you would be on in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
drives around the ranch. I see that as silly because the people are gonna get hurt, not in an automobile wreck, but in climbing in, climbing out, falling off, whatever like that. So I see it as much more commercial insurance and equipment or something along those lines. So what are your thoughts?
Well, in the commercial general liability policy, for example, there's a big old fat auto exclusion. Doesn't cover autos. Now, it does make a few exceptions. There's like 4. But if that vehicle ever leaves the ranch, to go to the gas station, to get new tires, oil change, anything, you can treat it like mobile equipment. And you can have a clarification discussion with your agent about that particular part of the CGL policy, commercial general liability policy. And if you want to call me, I'll be happy to point to it so you can teach him about it. There is one place where you can do it, but that thing better never leave the ranch. Okay? That's a good question. One other thing I want to mention too, it's part of property insurance, but unless you've been a business owner, you may have never heard of this. It's called business income insurance. And what it is if, let's say you have your barn is particularly valuable to your operation. Without your barn, you have to kind of stop everything. And it burns down. Are you going to lose income because of that? Would you lose money? You can insure that. You can insure it. And you do it by building. One more thing, and you want to talk to your agent about this. It can become problematic when you start talking about insuring fences. And let me tell you why. When insurance companies insure fences, the limit of insurance that you choose, this is how much my fence would cost to replace. If it's not accurate, you're going to get hit with a big old penalty at claims time. It's essentially called 100% co-insurance. You have to insure the whole thing. Now, if you had a particular section that you say, I just want to insure this frontage from here to there, it's the only thing I'm worried about. I'm worried about cars, whatever. You could approach an insurance company and a marine underwriter, you could approach them about that, and we could have a discussion. But it's just about pricing. So business income is something that you would certainly want to talk with your agent about. And I think I'm going to end with this little anecdote. Okay, go.
So when you talked about farm and ranch insurance, and talked about commercial insurance. So let's just say someone has a ranch that they use for hunting and their family and all those sorts of things, and they have an insurance policy. It's a farm and ranch policy. And then they decide to get into the exotic wildlife industry as a separate entity, and they start engaging in this operation. If something goes wrong in the course of the operation of that business, the wildlife business, is the farm and ranch policy going to provide adequate coverage?
Great question.
If something goes wrong.
Great question. And I would answer it this way. On the farm and ranch policy, it says we don't cover business activities except farming and ranching. Is that farming and ranching?
But if you haven't disclosed that to the insurance company,
It's the way the contract's written. That's a great question. It's the way the contract's written. Any others? I can't cite one, and I don't know of one, but it would not. What do you think a judge would say? Yeah, what would a San Antonio, what a Bexar County judge say? Is that a business that includes farming and ranching? Yeah, but it's an argument. It's an argument. Oh, there's a bunch of them. My agent does. Yeah, he insures ranches all over the state. Yeah, there's a lot of really good agents out there. But if they don't have any experience with it, you probably want to find one that did. speaks all the language and everything like that. Yeah. Any more? Okay, I want to end with a fun anecdote. It'll just take a second. Fun little story. Have you ever wondered if one of your animals gets off the ranch and gets in the road and a car hits it? Is that your fault or the driver's fault? The reason I bring this up, I thought of this the other day, so I'm going to include this. It depends on this. Texas, in its constitution, is an open range state. But later they changed the laws and said if it's a state or federal highway, then it's closed range. Unless it's a farm to market or ranch road. Unless, isn't that crazy? The county has designated that stretch of road, farm to market, ranch road, whatever, as closed range. So if you live on farm to market, ranch road, county road, it's probably open range, which means driver beware. Anyway, that's fun. It came in 1998. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So Kevin Sempter is the person that our company works with, and Paul and Kevin are partners. They work together. So feel free to get with them and ask questions about, your insurance needs if you have any. I'm sure you probably do. So I look at insurance from the standpoint of it's kind of like estate planning. You go out and you hire a lawyer, you put an estate plan together, you get a will and all those sort of things, and then you start living life and you don't do any of the things that you were supposed to do with regards to the estate plan. In other words, you set up an entity that all these assets are supposed to go into, but then you end up buying those assets with some other check or some other entity or doing it some other way. And so periodically it's important to revisit an estate plan. It's important to do that from time to time, in part because structurally we don't operate correctly, but the other part of it is that laws change. And so what we did back then may not be working very well today. And it's the same thing with regards to what we're doing in exotic wildlife and our ranching operations. So WildLife Partners, we have 4 different ranches with shelters, I say shelters, with lodging and barns and fences and all sorts of things on all of those ranches. We have an office in Bernie that is an office. It's where people work. And then we have employees that are out on the road and they're working on other people's ranches. And I don't know how many trucks and trailers and all those things that are part of our operation, but I hate insurance. No offense to Paul, I hate it. I don't like it. It's extraordinarily expensive. It's a cost of doing business. I have been in situations where we have been underinsured because we didn't go through the process of updating our insurance. We had a massive storm in Pettis that wiped out several of our buildings one time, wiped out our fence. It was just a random wind shear that came through, and we didn't have adequate insurance. Then we had a time where our lodge burned to the ground. And it's $1 million building, and I think we only had $300,000 of coverage because we never updated the insurance after we rebuilt the structure. And so it's important that periodically you go through a review with whoever you're working with, whether it's an agent you have that you like, or whether it's Paul or somebody else, but going through the process of, again, switching on and thinking, okay, well, I bought the ranch 10 years ago. It was completely different than what I'm doing now. I'm having people come out and fly helicopters. I've got game brokers coming out and doing things. And so it's just, again, it's turning on the brain and saying, I don't want to subject my entire net worth to the liabilities that are associated with this operation. And I want to make sure that the property, the assets that I have here, that they are properly insured, because if something happens, I don't want to be underinsured. And then the last one is, and Paul doesn't handle this for us, we now insure a lot of the animals that we buy. We've integrated insurance into our business model because we have found that it's actually profitable to do so. I hate saying that. I just hate saying that insurance is profitable for us, but it actually has the ability to be very effective when you're insuring your animals. If you, just as an example, if you buy Bongo, let's just say you spend $100,000 on female Bongo and you insure them and you pay a 7% premium annually. if you maintain that insurance until you get a female offspring out of the bongo, and then you sell that female, when you factor in your tax incentives, you have recovered all of your investment, including the cost of the insurance. So if you maintain insurance through the sale of your first female, you no longer have any risk exposure in the original breeder that you bought. That could happen in the first year, it could happen in the second year, the third year. If it's the fourth, get rid of the turd and buy something else. So I hope that you all find this type information useful. I mean, when you think about insurance discussions, it's like put me to sleep. I don't want to talk about this. But at the end of the day, we all work really hard for what we have. We put in a lot of effort to accumulate the assets that we have. And the last thing we want to end up doing is, giving them to Thomas J. Henry because something went wrong and we weren't paying attention to what we needed to do. And hopefully Thomas J. Henry's not here. You're a nice guy, I like you. Okay.